All right, welcome everyone. It is Health Talk. I'm Peter Christian. That's John King over there. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Peter.
And we have a wonderful special guest in the studio, and this is Mary Pat Hansen, and she's the clinical supervisor of First Step Resource Center at Providence St. Patrick Hospital. Now, those of you, the name First Step kind of jumps out at you a little bit. Sometimes you're in the news, although you don't like to be, because you folks are really, if you will, a first step to folks who have been involved in sexual assault situations, especially children. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, would you tell us a little bit about Mary Pat Hansen and a bit about your training and how you got involved in First Step?
Sure. I am a nurse practitioner.
There you go. Good.
I have been at First Step for the last over 10 years now.
Go ahead.
I have a, let's see. So I've been at First Step for over 10 years. I started as an interviewer and an examiner at First Step. And for about the last 5 years, I've also coordinate the day-to-day operations of the clinic.
Mm-hmm. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about First Step, what it is and what you folks do there.
Sure. We are a children's advocacy center providing response for children when there's suspicion of abuse, and an adult sexual assault response center.
Okay. So when a child is brought to you, obviously it's a very sensitive, very fragile situation. In what ways do you try to help the youngster? They're in a strange situation, a strange place. They may be scared. Maybe they were hurt. They don't really understand what's going on. How do you help put them at ease so that you can begin to get the information that you need, in order to proceed with whatever case you're working on?
Absolutely. I guess there's sort of two ways I can speak structurally. What is set up in our center to sort of allow for that, to help a child feel comfortable?
Environmentally speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
So a children's advocacy center at its core is designed to put the child at the center of the response. So we have in theory, all of us grown-ups, all the professionals that need to respond to child abuse are working together instead of having the child have to go and talk to multiple different adults about what may have happened to them. Mm-hmm. We all come together and work together to simplify, to ease the way for that child. Mm-hmm. Our center is deliberately child-friendly. It feels warm, comfortable when someone walks in. And if I had to say, number one, what we do, I think I work with the most incredible staff I could ask for.
Well, tell me about them.
Yeah, we have a staff. There are 6 of us that are medical professionals, so either nurses or nurse practitioners, all specially trained to handle real sensitive cases. Mm-hmm. They're pretty fabulous. They know how to work with children. They know how to work with adults. They know how to work with parents who are in a state of crisis. In addition, I have 2 social workers on staff who are outstanding, able to work with families trying to figure out, okay, now what? What do I do now? My whole world has just shifted, and they're able to sort of walk someone through that process.
Now, you just brought up a very good point. When an accusation like this or something like this has happened, everybody's world has changed. We're basically working in a different universe now. Right. And so, but your primary responsibility is not the offender or any of that stuff. That's pretty much handled by the police and the county attorney, that sort of thing. Your deal is helping the child, right? And so what are the steps that you take to help the child, first of all, maybe evaluate what happened and then be able to get through so that they can be healed somehow?
Okay, so one of our primary responsibilities as an advocacy center is team coordination. So our job is to make sure all the players that you just mentioned, prosecution, law enforcement, child protection, medical professionals, mental health professionals, and advocates, make sure we're all working together and we're all making it as easy as we can for that kiddo.
Sure.
So when a child is scheduled to come and see us, we start quite honestly at the phone call. Our social worker spends an crazy amount of time on the phone just talking to primarily parents, whoever the guardian may be, talking through our process, what it'll look like, their questions about what to do now, what do they do with their child, and then we schedule them to come in. When they come in, we also notify child protection, law enforcement, and prosecution. Mm-hmm. Kiddo will come in with their family, we'll spend some time with everyone together, and then the child will come back with one of our medical staff who's trained as a forensic interviewer. While that forensic interview is taking place, our multidisciplinary team professionals, prosecution, law enforcement, and Child Protection actually watch the interview at the same time that it's happening. They're in another room,
right,
and they can't see us.
So there's not this huge amount of adults just kind of looking over. So the whole idea is to put the child at ease, make the child as comfortable as possible, and yet still be able to get the information from them. That's got to be a finely honed skill.
It is an art.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of art, a little bit of science.
Okay.
People talk about the forensic interview. Part of our job is there's a lot of mandates about how you are supposed to talk to kids. Mm-hmm. Number one, to reduce suggestibility. So we are not supposed to give them ideas that they don't already have.
Right. You're not supposed to plant things.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Not supposed to plant things. And obviously, that is hardest in young children. How do you ask a question that a 4-year-old can understand, mm-hmm. and you aren't giving them an idea that they didn't already have? So you're both following kind of the rules of decreasing, limiting suggestibility, but also helping them feel comfortable, feel connected to you, and making it feel real. And that is where the art comes in.
Mm-hmm. Now, and again, if I'm getting into an area that's too sensitive, just tell me, okay? but are there always tears involved, or is it one of those deals where you kind of have to comfort the child, or is each one different?
That's a great question. A lot of people ask that. We get asked that in court even sometimes. My short answer is there's no formula for what a child will look like if they have experienced some sort of trauma.
Right.
Some kids are crying. Some kids are laughing. Some kids are flat, like there's not a whole lot of affect going on.
Sure.
And that in and of itself isn't going to give us an answer as to what did or didn't happen. Mm-hmm. We're just going to ride. We're going to meet them where they're at, mm-hmm. and provide a sense of comfort for them in that space.
How do you determine at what point that you've been able to glean all the information you can from the child?
Oh, when do we decide we're done with the interview?
Yeah,
that's a great question. That's also an art sometimes. Some kids just get done. They tell us we're done.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I have kids walk out on me. They're like, I'm done, lady. Okay. Would you stop asking me questions?
Sure. Okay.
For others, we will, at some point during our interview, we actually pause, and the interviewer will go check in with the folks who are watching, so prosecution, law enforcement, and child protection, and say, hey, what did I miss? Is there anything else you guys would like me to ask? And that often helps us make a decision about when we're done. We'll go back in and potentially follow up in the ways that we were asked to.
How would you be able to determine or evaluate a successful forensic interview from your definition?
That's a complicated question. I think when I look back on my work, what do I feel most proud of, or what do I feel like, I did a really good job? I don't talk a lot, which is not my greatest strength. So if it's a forensic interview, right. I'm quiet.
Right.
And that child is primarily the one providing the information. I've done a better job. Mm-hmm. But success can look like a lot of different things. It can be, did the child walk away feeling good? It can be really powerful to have someone listen to your experience, potentially your traumatic experience,
right.
and hold that carefully, hold that story, hold that information, and that can be really powerful for a child. So if I walk out of there and that child feels a sense of relief, a little bit of lightness,
right.
then I've done good that day. Whatever happens in the prosecution world or the criminal justice world or the
sure.
child protection world, if they feel a sense of power and lightness, I think that can be really successful.
Do you find that that kids desperately want to be listened to and believed?
Some.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that same thing, that question you asked me earlier. We see a whole variety of things. Mm-hmm. For some kids, they don't even realize they're telling me something that we as grown-ups would see as traumatic. They don't even realize it. I'm just asking the questions and they're giving me the answers. For others, they've already told someone else who didn't believe them. And now they're in there, and so, they desperately want the interviewer to hear what they're saying.
Now, one more question about the kids, and then we'll take a break and talk about adults. But is one of the reasons why you spend so much time and do what you do is so that the child won't have to go into a trial situation and testify in front of a room full of adults and a jury and all that?
Sure is a complicated question. There are some laws that protect the accused as well.
Sure.
And one of those laws is that someone who's accused of a crime has a right to face their accuser. And their accuser in a child abuse case is a child.
Right.
And so if we only do a forensic interview, they don't have that opportunity to face their accuser. So that said, I think my prosecutor friends, hopefully they'll agree with this, would say a really well done forensic interview, though, that is recorded, it's video recorded, can actually keep the case out of court. You're more likely to get a plea agreement because the defense attorney ends up seeing, look, this is what the child's going to be capable of saying on the stand.
Wow.
So they're more likely to get a plea agreement and not end up in court.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. This is fascinating, and I'm so glad for the work you guys do, seriously.
Thanks.
We're going to come right back with more of Health Talk here in just a moment. If you have a question or a comment, give us a call. John will be happy to take that down and pass it along to Mary Pat Hansen, who is the clinical supervisor of First Step Resource Center at Providence St. Patrick Hospital. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback, 721-1290. A couple of interesting questions for Mary Pat that came up during the break. First of all, how many cases do you folks handle every year? I understand it's quite a bit more than people would imagine.
So for the past several years, we've had about 400 clients a year. So that includes both the adults we serve and the kids we serve. About 80% of what we do is children, and about 20% of what we see are adults. And this year, our volume's up a little bit, and we're going to be probably just under 500. Someone in my office said to me recently, "Oh, if we get this number for the next 3 months, we'll be at 500." I was like, "I'm not making sure that happens. I think it'd be okay if we were under 500."
So what is it is it a record year? I mean,
I think it will be.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that brings a child into your office in the first place? What gets them there?
So our primary referrals come from child protection and law enforcement, but it is not all of our it's not all of our cases. So if child protection gets a report of sexual abuse, it could also be physical abuse, drug endangerment, even witness to violence, children that either maybe witnessed violence in their home or even a witness to some sort of crime. They may ask us to do those interviews as well. So child protection may send it to us or law enforcement may send it to us. And then we take care of kind of pulling all the team together to respond. In addition, though, we will take referrals from community members. So we get referrals from both emergency departments in town. We get referrals from
I'm sure like Watson's Children's Shelter, places like that.
Potentially right? Watson's. Often those kids, for obvious reasons, may be involved with child protection already. So they may be the ones ultimately making the referral. But mental health providers, medical providers, and even some parents, they find out about us where, maybe they had a friend whose kid came to First Step and then they said, you should call this place. So we'll get a referral that way.
We need to talk about grown-ups now. Okay. So now, one of the things that happens on the University of Montana campus when there's a sexual assault reported, do they come and see you, or is that like an option for them, or can they just go to the Curry Health Center, or how does that work?
We are definitely an option for them. So it's obviously not everyone reports sexual assault. Adults get a choice, like they don't have to choose to make that report.
Right.
But anyone who contacts hopefully any professional agency, whether that's Curry Health Center or a advocate on campus or law enforcement on campus, will be given the opportunity to come to First Step. The university and all its different parts are a part of our multidisciplinary team here in town as well.
Okay, so let's talk about who actually initiates sexual assault. I mean, is it the dark stranger behind the bush, or is that just kind of a very small percentage of what happens to people?
It's a very small percentage of what happens to people. It depends. You can look at research all over the place, but estimates are child sexual abuse, 9 out of 10 times that child has a relationship with the offender. With adult sexual assault, I think the estimates are 4 out of 5 will know the offender. It'll be someone that they have a relationship with or an acquaintance of some kind. Like
acquaintance rape.
Correct.
We've heard that term before.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when it comes to children versus adults, what are the numbers? Are they about 50-50? Are there more children or more adults?
If you look at sexual violence as a whole and how it actually is more, the research shows that it's more frequently children. Maybe about as much as 70% of sexual violence happens against children under the age of 18. It's really hard research to do.
Yeah. With
children, the estimates are only 38% of kids will tell anyone. So that means 6 out of 10 kids who experience sexual abuse of some kind choose not to tell anyone at all. So it's really hard to do this research. It's often done in hindsight or looking back. So they interview adults, and adults are reflecting on their childhood. and saying, yes, I experienced sexual abuse, and no, I didn't tell anyone.
All right. Now, are there more adults now as well as more children?
Coming into my clinic?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I mean, as our numbers are going up, our percentages are staying the same. So we're still seeing 20% adults, which would mean that they're both rising a little bit.
Yeah, I want to ask you something. In the work that you do, obviously you are hyper-vigilant about this deal because this is what you deal with every day. If Mary Pat Hansen could have a magic wand, okay, and say, okay, here's what I want my community to begin to do to try to reduce this sort of thing from your perspective as a clinician, okay? So what would it be? What's the number one piece of advice that you could give to people?
So this, I think I can answer in general, both for kids and adults. There's a lack of healthy conversation in our culture about healthy sexual development, about boundaries, about bodies. And unfortunately, because of that, we don't even give our kids language to make a disclosure to us if they have that experience.
Sure.
As we move kind of up, the conversation we should be having with our kids changes as they get older. What we talk to our 3-year-old about versus what we talk to our 10-year-old, 16-year-old looks really different. And certainly, consent needs to be a part of that whole conversation as well. So obviously with young kids, we're talking about bodies. What parts of their bodies are the part it's not okay to have someone touch? And as we get older, talking about consent, what does consent look like? How do two adults communicate consent so that both sides understand what they're consenting to? And having that open conversation doesn't happen all the time.
Well, that's one of the things that in my conversations with the folks from the Department of Justice and Department of Education and all the things that they've been trying to do on campus with the PETSA test, which I hope everybody's had a chance to take. I passed 100%.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
So I can go to school now if I want to. But a part of that is about what is consent, and I think that's a really important conversation to have. So. Anyway.
And it's super complicated, and I think people look at it differently. So continuing to have that conversation in open environments is really important. And I think some would say if we're doing it in the college level, and that's the first time we're having it, we've missed the boat.
Yeah.
We need to be having conversations with our kids when they're really young. Some families have a lot of shame and secrecy in their home around bodies, around sex. And if we in our homes are not talking to our kids, they're going to learn it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it may be on the internet. And is that where we want them to be understanding stuff about their bodies and about their development?
Okay, we're going to come right back. 721-1290. If you have a question or comment, I'd love to get your question answered with Mary Pat Hansen, and we will be right back. Hey, we're back on Talk Back. This is Health Talk, actually, sponsored by Providence Health and Services, Western Montana. We're talking with Mary Pat Hansen, and one question we haven't asked yet is, why do you think that numbers are increasing so much, where people are coming to First Step?
I think we're seeing an increase this year based on the good work that the professionals in our community are doing. We realize the value of working together. We realize that it's best practice to do this as a team and not to individually investigate or respond to child abuse or sexual violence. And so we're seeing an increase in numbers. I don't think that it's because there's an increase in actual violence or child abuse. I think it's reflective of us doing a better job working together. Fantastic.
All right. So is there an average age, when you're especially talking about kiddos, is there an average age when the kids that you see them?
I should have looked at those numbers for you, but I don't know for sure. But I think the highest age group that we are seeing is between the ages of 6 and 10. Okay. But I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that there's a high prevalence in that age group.
All right. Now, without revealing anything that's confidential, because I know you guys, much of what you do is very confidential and necessarily so, can you tell us how to contact you and perhaps how someone can refer a case to you to get the expertise that you guys offer?
Sure. So if anyone suspects child abuse, I want to make sure it's important for me to say that you need to report that to Centralized Intake. Centralized Intake is Montana's child abuse hotline. So making a call there should always happen. But there are times where you just have questions. You're not even sure. Maybe your child's exhibiting a behavior. You're unsure of it. You don't know what to do with it. You're always welcome to call us and talk through any situation.
Like maybe there's some acting out going on.
Correct. So you can call our office. Our social workers, our nursing staff too, are fantastic at sort of triaging that conversation. So you can call our office. Our number is 406-329-5776. And either leave a message or hopefully someone will answer the phone depending on the time of day. We can be busy and they'll hopefully be able to help you.
In 30 seconds or so, if you could sum up what it is you love about your job, about what you do.
Yeah, I think even when trauma happens, people have incredible potential to heal. People have incredible potential to still have healthy relationships as they move forward. And I get an opportunity to contribute to that healing process. People often ask me, how do you do what you do? And I say, how do I not do what I do? I am the luckiest person in the world. I meet someone and they trust me with some of the most intimate details of their life experience. And they choose to let me hold that. And it's an honor to be able to do that.
Mary Pat, you've been a great guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for the work you guys do.
Thank you.
All right. That's going to do it for Health Talk, and we will take a quick break, come right back, and we have Talk Back coming up from 9 to 10. We're going to have a little bit of a kind of a mini political forum, and we'll be back.